biggest fight, for all you might want to continue, as is so alluring, to externalize it and say, no, it's them. They're doing what I don't want them to do, instead of getting still and seeing them in you, seeing that difficult journey, seeing them in you, and seeing that there's a need here, that I don't know. Sit with that. I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to take the system. And when you get to that point, you get to this point of acknowledging that if a tree was not rooted in the ground, if it was running around off the ground, it would not have the innate, pure intelligence telling it how to fruit a sweet fruit. And so its fruits would be anxious and contorted and deformed and bitter. And the thing that's keeping it from the soil is a layer of thoughts. And as soon as the layer of thoughts are taken out the equation and it roots back in, the fruits become sweet and alluring and appealing and correct and constituted as they need to be. Humans are running around on top of thought, and the fruits are contorted. And they are seeking revolution from that state. And so even if they manage to change some humans out of power, some systems, some exchange of wealth, whatever it's going to be, until we are not trees running around on a layer of thought uprooted from the innate intelligence that will show us which way we guide our society to that higher state, to where I know when you eliminate that thought and you root in the correct space, when you take that layer out, that the compassion and the love and the peace that comes from there shows you that compassion, love and peace is coming from a higher source. And for whatever you want to call it, that present moment awareness, it knows how to bring that. And us running as trees on top of thought don't know.
I am the light of love.
Hey, beautiful family. It would seem at this present time in our epic story of mankind, which is what we all are. We are the epic story of mankind. It seems that yet again we have a call for revolution. And the calls for revolution are sometimes beautiful, sometimes admirable, and sometimes needed. But in history, we can see that there have been revolutions, and the life that persons led after them may have improved in some retrospects, but eventually we had the same problems of society. And so right now I just made a video where I gave the same analogy that I have given a couple of times recently, that if you take the world leaders and the systems and you put them all in an island and lock them away and they can't express, then humanity is left with needing to find a replacement. And that replacement is going to have to be done by humans. And that means that everything you tried to lock away on that island is now going to relive and express itself, because everything that happened in that society came through a human being. Came through their nature, their psyche, the influence of other areas of consciousness and dimensions, however you look at it. It came through a human being. So we can see then, if you're going for revolution and you want to have revolution, you need to have a clear goal. And if we're going to have revolution in opposition to the system that we live in, then I think what we are saying is no more corruption, and no more, we can put it in a collective name of no more antichrist system. No more system where you can bomb everybody, starve people, spend so much money on weaponry and because you're scared and you want power. And we want a society where we spend that money on helping one another. Imagine where we would be if we didn't spend all that trillions of dollars on weapons and war and military Imagine where the world would be. Imagine our healthcare systems. Imagine the education systems. Imagine the permaculture systems. Imagine how protected Mother Nature would be and sustainable we could make our way of life. And we can't do it because there's humans involved. And so those of us who sense it, there's a need for a revolution. We have to really look where that revolution has to take place. Because there's an issue with needing revolution with the agreement of thought and having a revolution as a transformation of humanity. And so if you push against tyranny and injustice, you push against these things and you acknowledge them. It's a step. You've acknowledged in thought, in human thought form identity, that something is up and you're saying something's not right with that. But the scenario, unless you detach from thought, will only be that you either pull it down by force or nothing. Because you don't have enough love and compassion from thought to transform anything. But you can have that compassion by rooting yourself in the awakened state, the light of silence, the superconsciousness, the spirit of God, the presence of God. The truth is the presence and the presence is the truth. You can be pure attention rooted that allows the learning, experience and expression of compassion. So if you can see it and say, I'm opposed to this injustice, acknowledge that it's a concept you're opposed to and not a transformational approach. And so then acknowledge, what do we do? The only option here is to take them out by force, by power. But then how do we replace it? This is not a revolution that you want. You don't want that revolution. You don't want the systems that you live in to have a crumbling away and you can't feed yourself and you can't have water and electricity and connectivity. You don't want that. I've lived in that world. It's not pleasant. You don't want it that you have to worry how you're going to flush your toilet. You don't want it. It's regression, it's painful, it's difficult. And right now, if we had the wisdom and the knowledge to care for ourselves, then maybe some of us could manage it, but we are too far disconnected as a species. We need those municipalities. We need that system to support our families, to keep them happy, healthy, and to some degree fed, because you would be catastrophically worse off without them. And so you don't want a revolution by power. You don't want primitives expressing non-compassionate nature, fighting other humans with guns and knives, because the chaos of war creates immense suffering. And the outcome is that you replace it with people who are quite okay with the same behavior, which means you'll just repeat it. You'll just get it again. And so the true revolution is against self. This is where you are having a revolution against. And the biggest fight, for all you might want to continue, as is so alluring to externalize it and say, no, it's them. It's they're doing what I don't want them to do, instead of getting still and seeing them in you, seeing that difficult journey, seeing them in you, and seeing that there's a need here, that I don't know. Sit with that. I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to take the system. And when you get to that point, you get to this point of acknowledging that if a tree was not rooted in the ground, if it was running around off the ground, it would not have the innate, pure intelligence telling it how to fruit a sweet fruit. And so its fruits would be anxious and contorted and deformed and bitter. And the thing that's keeping it from the soil is a layer of thoughts. And as soon as the layer of thoughts are taken out the equation and it roots back in, the fruits become sweet and alluring and appealing and correct and constituted as they need to be. Humans are running around on top of thought, and the fruits are contorted. And they are seeking revolution from that state. And so even if they manage to change some humans out of power, some systems, some exchange of wealth, whatever it's going to be, until We are not trees running around on a layer of thought uprooted from the innate intelligence that will show us which way we guide our society to that higher state, to where I know when you eliminate that thought and you root in the correct space, when you take that layer out, that the compassion and the love and the peace that comes from there shows you that that compassion, love and peace is coming from a higher source. And for whatever you want to call it, that present moment awareness, it knows how to bring that. And us running as trees on top of thought don't know. We don't know how to bring the sweet fruit. And so when you take that away and you root in it, it's not John rooted in it. It's me rooted as a tree rooted in soil. It's John rooted nowhere. He's gone, he's a thought identity. It's me, the planet peopling, the tree fruiting. It's a connection. And when I entered that space myself, I charity to charity. What are you supposed to be doing? What fruit are you supposed to be fruiting that you can't fruit? And what is it that we expect to do if we agree from above the state of thought as the chaotic tree, looking for a way to change this, and our fruits are all anxious and contorted and bitter? And we're saying justice, it's a thought, it's a concept of thought. Tyranny, it's a concept of thought. Corruption, it's a concept of thought. Let's encapsulate it, non-compassion. So what are you looking for? Compassion. And where's the home of compassion? It's underneath that layer of thought. And so if we don't seek compassion now to transform our self, so as we can find our rooting beyond thought, so as we can fruit the fruits that innate intelligence of compassion wants us to fruit, then when do we seek it? After the next people step in with their chaotic level of existence on top of the layer of thought? Or do we do it now? The one thing we've never collectively tried to do, because we dare not let go of the thought identity, because we dare not let go because it's a fearful journey. But when we do, something will meet you, and you will feel peace and love that you have longed for in all of the pleasures of the world. And when you find that peace and love and that stillness, and your roots go into that place, the roots go in where the tree couldn't find the soil for that layer of thought, you will see society will blossom a change. It will blossom the fruits that we all really want to see when we come together in opposition of tyranny, because we're coming together in opposition of the expression of that side of human nature, and it's all expressed from engaging in the rooting of the thought identity instead of the light of silence, the state of stillness, the pure attention that we actually are. God bless, guys. Bye. Guys, I'd just like to quickly interrupt this video to say we are having a bit of a battle with our animal rescue shelter in Tanzania. Many of you know we have the shelter. There's more than 100 rescue dogs living there at the moment, and they come from horrendous circumstances. Aside from those that are hit by vehicles, we have dogs that were attacked with machetes, starved on the streets, shot, hung. Unbelievable events happen to these beautiful beings, and the amount of suffering that they go through is quite profound. Having them inside the shelter, for me, is, aside from helping these individual dogs that I know, I feel raising the vibration of the planet to a huge degree. And I feel like this is a very practical way to do that, is to help those that are in a deep state of suffering that we can help. At the moment, because we have not had any fundraisers and we have certain sponsorships that haven't happened due to the pandemic restrictions, we are having a little bit of a struggle. So I'm just interrupting this to say, if you have a heart for dogs, like I do, and you feel like you would be able to help out in some way, please go and check out the website. Maybe you can do some fundraising for us, or you can share some support, or you could sponsor one of the dogs, and in sponsoring them it helps us to cover their food, their medical bills, and also the care costs. Also remember, holistic approach that we do, some of the caregivers for the dogs, the staff that look after them, are single parents who have alcohol addiction or drug addiction or have special needs children, etc. So it's a fully holistic approach, and it helps more than just the dogs when you do support it. So that was all. Thank you for the love and support, and please guys, keep being awesome. We can't help anyone in Tanzania without you, and it's your love that the foundation of All Live Share Tanzania and Kilimanjaro Animal Rescue is built on.